Oh, so what you're saying is... Hi everyone, it's Blue. Make sure you like and subscribe and go check out my Patreon. It's only $5 a month and you get an extra video at least every week.
My whole team loved two things. They loved tip, they love the ladies, and they love John Cena. That's it.
Today I'm going to be doing another Jordan Peterson video. It is called Gender Differences.
Gender equality desirable?
Oh, yes.
If it means equality of outcome, then almost certainly it's undesirable. That's already been demonstrated in Scandinavia. Because in Scandinavia...
What do you mean by that? Equality of outcome is undesirable?
Well, men and women won't sort themselves into the same categories if you leave them alone to do it of their own accord. I've already seen that in Scandinavia. It's 20 to 1 female nurses to male, something like that. It might not be quite that extreme. And approximately the same male engineers to female engineers. And that's a consequence of the free choice of men and women in the societies that have gone farther than any other societies to make gender equality the purpose of the law. Those are ineradicable differences. You can eradicate them with tremendous social pressure and tyranny, but if you leave men and women to make their own choices, you will not get equal outcomes.
Right, so you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen.
Only if they're aiming at equality of outcome.
So you're saying give people equality of opportunity, that's fine.
Not only fine, it's eminently desirable for everyone, for individuals and for society.
But still women aren't going to make it, that's what you're really saying.
It depends on your measurement techniques. They're doing just fine in medicine. In fact, there are far more female physicians than there are male physicians. There are lots of disciplines that are absolutely dominated by women. Many, many disciplines, and they're doing great. So
let me put something else to you from the book. You say the introduction of the equal pay for equal work argument immediately complicates even salary comparison beyond practicality for one simple reason. Who decides what work is equal? It's not possible. So the simple question is, do you believe in equal pay?
Well, I made the argument there. It's like it depends on
so
who
you don't
defines
believe
it.
in equal pay?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Because a lot of people listening to you will just say, I mean, are we going back to the dark ages?
That's because they're actually not listening. They're
I'm
just
listening very
projecting
carefully,
what
and I'm
they think.
hearing you basically saying women need to just accept they're never going to make it on equal terms. Equal outcomes is how you defined it.
No, I didn't
say that. If I was a young woman watching that, I would go, well, I might as well just go and play with my Cindy dolls and give up trying at school because I'm not going to get the top job I want because there's someone sitting there saying it's not possible and it's not desirable. It's going to make you miserable.
Desirable. That's what I said. It's a bad social goal. I didn't say that women shouldn't be striving for the top or anything like that, because I don't believe that for a second.
Striving for the top, but you're going to put all those hurdles in their way, as has been in their way for centuries, and that's fine. You're saying that's fine.
No, I really think
patriarchal system is just
that's
fine.
Silly. I do. I think that's silly. I really do. I mean, look at your situation. You're hardly unsuccessful.
Yeah, and I have battled quite hard to get where I've got to.
Good.
So that's okay. Battling is good. This is all about the fight.
It's inevitable.
But you talk about men fighting. Let me just put another thing to you from the book.
Why wouldn't you have to battle for a high-quality position?
Okay, so it almost feels like it's kind of turned into an argument. First one did not get this heated. If you have not watched it, make sure you go and check it out. I do think it's important to carry on to this video. Anyways, yeah, a little arguey. She seems more offended in this video, honestly. Maybe it does sound offensive because she probably maybe identifies with it. I also do think that it's very important that they're differentiating the equality of outcome versus the equality of opportunity. This is, I guess, where you can clearly see their disagreement because he not only believes that the equality of opportunity does exist and that's what he wants, but it seems like she doesn't not only believe that the equality of opportunity doesn't exist, but it seems like she's striving for the equality of outcome. So they disagree on that, I guess. I think he's expressing that if you have equality of outcome, the equality of opportunity doesn't exist. It's one or the other. And the equality of outcome will kind of turn into things where you get participation trophies or people who don't deserve that spot just get it because you want to have 3 men and 3 women who have this job, even though those women weren't as qualified or even those men weren't as qualified. So it starts getting really dangerous and kind of sticky because then you start just giving things to people who don't deserve it because you want this outcome that seems equal. And maybe even giving or pushing these things on people that don't want it.
To battle for a high-quality position.
Well, I notice in your book you talk about real conversations between men containing, quote, an underlying threat of physicality.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
What about real conversations between women? Is that something, or are we sort of too amenable and reasonable?
No, it's just that the domain of physical conflict is sort of off limits for you.
Well, you just said that I've
unfortunate.
fought to get where I've got.
Yeah, but
what does that make me?
Well,
a sort of proxy man or something?
I don't imagine that you. Yeah, to some degree, I suspect you're not very agreeable.
So that's the thing. Successful women. I'm not very agreeable.
Right.
But
I've noticed that
successful-
actually in this conversation.
At least
and
we
I'm
can
sure
have
it
both well.
served your career well.
Successful women, though, basically have to wear the trousers. In your view, they have to sort of become men to succeed. Is what you're saying?
Well, if they're going
I've had to fight to succeed.
if they're
Therefore,
going to
I'm an
compete
honorary
against
man.
men, certainly masculine traits are going to be helpful. I mean, one of the things I do in my counseling practice, for example, when I'm consulting with women who are trying to advance their careers, is to teach them how to negotiate and to be able to say no and to not be easily pushed around and to be formidable. And you need to, if you're going to be successful, you need to be smart, conscientious, and tough.
Well, here's a radical idea. Why don't the bosses adopt the male bosses, shall we say, adopt some female traits so that women don't have to fight and get their sharp elbows out for the pay rises? It's just accepted if they're doing the same job, they get the same pay.
Well, I would say partly because it's not so easy to determine what constitutes the same job.
But that's because, arguably, there are still men dominating our industries, our society, and therefore they've dictated the terms for so long that women have to battle to be like the men.
No, it's not true. It's not true. So, for example,
where's the evidence?
Well, I can give you an example very quickly. So I worked with women who worked in high-powered law firms in Canada for about 15 years, and they were as competent and put together as anybody you would ever meet. And we were trying to figure out how to further their careers. And there was a huge debate in Canadian society at that point that was basically ran along the same lines as your argument, is that if the law firms didn't use these masculine criteria, then perhaps women would do better. But the market sets the damn game. It's like...
And the market is dominated by men.
No, it's not. It's not. The market is dominated by women. They make 80% of the consumer decisions. That's not the case at all.
If you're talking
80%.
about people who stay at home looking after children, by and large, they are still women. So they're going out doing the shopping. But that is changing.
They make all the consumer decisions.
Okay, so
the
what I want
market
to
is
ask
driven
you,
by women, not men.
Right.
Okay, and if you're a lawyer
and they
in
still
Canada,
pay more for the same sort of goods. That's been proven. That men, you buy a blue bicycle helmet, it's going to cost less than a pink one. Anyway, we'll come on to that.
It's partly because men are less agreeable. Right, so they won't put up with it.
I want to ask you, is it not desirable to have some of those female traits you're talking about? I'd say that's a generalization, but you've used the words female traits. Is it not desirable to have some of them at the top of business? I mean, maybe there wouldn't have been a banking crisis.
They don't predict success in the workplace. The things that predict success in the workplace are intelligence and conscientiousness. Agreeableness negatively predicts success in the workplace. And so does high negative emotion.
You're saying that women aren't intelligent enough to run these top companies?
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that...
Ooh. I do think that she often, in this conversation, says what she thinks he's saying and does a lot of speaking for him. I feel like he's being kind of clear, so it seems combative to then say, oh, so what you're saying is, and then summing it up and meshing it into something that he definitely didn't quote. So it's a little dangerous, just like the whole unintelligent thing, or I think she said intelligent. Women aren't intelligent enough to do this. That's what you're saying. And it's, oh, I didn't hear that. I wonder when he said it. There's a difference between him saying women have to be conscientious or intelligent to blah, 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 and get where they want to get, and then her taking what he just said and then saying, oh, so you're saying women aren't intelligent enough. And that's not what I just said, but that is what you heard, I guess. That's what I heard in the conversation. Also, trying to say this short and simple would be the thing that she said about the pink and blue helmet. He kind of combated her very quickly and said, well, the market is chosen by the women. If a man walks into a store and there's 3 helmets and one of them's yellow or white, one of them's blue, one of them's pink, and the cheapest one is the white one, he might just buy the white one. But he's kind of pointing out if a woman still buys a pink helmet, and so you feel it's aimed towards women because it's pink, but women are the ones who kind of control the market because they do most of the shopping and they still buy that pink helmet, then who's going to tell that company or the razor company or the pink pens that they need to change that because they're aiming towards women and making their women products more expensive? Well, as women, maybe you could just buy the products that are cheaper just like the razors. Don't the razors work the same? Even men's razors or women's razors? If you don't want to pay more money for women's razors and you think that it's wrong, then boycott women's razors and pay for men's razors. Or buy the women's razors because you're admitting that you don't care and you're succumbing to, well, they're more expensive, but I'll go ahead and buy women's razors. So I do feel like that's where it kind of gets a little messy. I mean, if women are technically controlling the market and they're doing this, these companies might sound really bad, but we'll take advantage of it because people are still buying these products that might be aimed towards women and are more expensive. And although I can even say, oh, that sucks, that should be different, who at the end of the day is going to make them change it? People are still buying it, so they're going to make it because that's what it's demanding. It's working.
You're saying that women aren't intelligent enough to run these top companies?
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that female traits don't predict success.
But I didn't say that intelligence wasn't.
conscientiousness
I didn't say that
do.
intelligence and conscientiousness
Well, you were saying
weren't
intelligence
female
and
traits.
conscientiousness by implication are not female traits.
No,
I mean,
I'm not
that's very
saying that.
dangerous territory.
I'm not saying that at all.
Are women less
There's-
intelligent than men? by and large?
No, they're not.
She's not
no,
letting that one
the
go.
data on that's pretty clear. The average IQ for a woman and the average IQ for a man is identical. There is some debate about the flatness of the distribution, which is something that James Damore pointed out, for example, in his memo, but there's no difference at all in general cognitive ability. There's no difference to speak of in conscientiousness. Women are a bit more orderly than men, and men are a little bit more industrious than women. But the difference isn't big. But that averages into
Plenty of men
conscientiousness.
who aren't necessarily as
Well, of
industrious.
course.
But
these are-
we'll
But no,
female
but
traits,
you asked me
though,
the
why
question.
are they not...
Feminine traits,
Why
let's
are they
say.
not desirable at the top of... Feminine traits,
female,
why are they not
different.
desirable at the top of
It's hard to say. I'm just laying out the empirical evidence. Like we know the traits that predict success.
But we also know, because companies by and large have not been dominated by women over the centuries, we have nothing to compare it to. It's an experiment.
True, and it could be the case that if companies modified their behavior and became more feminine, that they would be successful. But
You
there's
seem
no
doubtful about
evidence
that.
for it. I'm not neither doubtful nor non-doubtful. There's no evidence
So why
for
not
it.
give it a go, as the radical
Because the evidence
feminists would
suggests,
say?
well, it's fine. If someone wants to start a company and make it more feminine and compassionate, let's say, and caring in its overall orientation towards its workers and towards the marketplace, then that's a perfectly reasonable experiment to run. My point is that there is no evidence that those traits predict success in the workplace. And there's
Because it's
this
never
evidence
been tried.
Well, that's not really the case. Women have been in the workplace for, at least ever since I've been around, the representation of women in the workplace has been about 50%. So we've run the experiment for a fairly reasonable period of time, but not, certainly not for centuries.
Another good point that he made, probably very convenient to bring up lawyers, but it is a point. More men probably make up lawyers, and lawyer specifically, if you think about arguing and trying to prove your point and, dominating the place and having to speak aggressively and find out all these facts, that could be looked at as a little bit more of a masculine trait. And if you went in there were a little bit nice or shyer about it or agreeable, you're probably not doing your job as well as a lawyer when you're trying to fight for this case and have to be a little bit more aggressive with what you're saying. So he is pointing out that a market as a whole, men and women all around, want more masculine traits in a lot of the things that they watch or do, even sports. I mean, a lot of women's sports aren't supported by not only men, but women. And I do think that it is situational. I mean, if it was flipped, where the market clearly shows that they like more feminine traits, I do think that in a lot of situations, men would also have to maybe find a little bit more of their feminine traits. It probably works with babysitting or teaching or anything like that, where a man has to be a little bit more nurturing or softer. He has to succumb to those types of traits in order to get that type of job. So people don't really talk about that part because maybe it's just not on the sheets for having like discrimination or pay gap or whatever else, but there are jobs that require femininity, and men would probably need to succumb to that for those jobs the same way that women would have to for those jobs. But this was an interesting discussion. Regardless of what you believe, I do think that he speaks well and he's very interesting watching, and even the whole interview was very interesting, kind of gives you something to think about. So if you do want more videos by me, make sure you go check out my Patreon and all my links down below, and I'll see you all next time.